So first comes coordination. And this is a typical process map that we kind of built out before we delved into the system. So we had 2 years from now, I guess, we had a summer associate come into our team for a little bit, and he conducted customer surveys and asked around, but went up to people in the office, say, what exactly do you work on? What do you want from a system? What do you exactly want that could be better and could actually make a functional BPM suite? And so we ended up making process maps for the different kind of issues that we actually face on a day-to-day basis. And so this is kind of a process map that you see for a typical technical issue that we have with the turbine. And I know it's a little hard to read on the screen, and I don't expect you guys to delve into here, but I think two things that I specifically like to point out here is the first thing is that we had a bunch of different process maps for each different kind of issue. But once we actually delved in the system and we had professional services come and help us build the system, we managed to figure out that there's a process flow. There's a consistent process flow that all our cases will follow. Essentially, they will have 5 stages to reach a resolution. Let's go through the stages real quick. Identification. We need to identify the problem that we have. You log the problem in the system. That's identification primarily. Just putting in the information, getting it in there, identifying the problem. Secondly is obviously documenting the solution to the problem that you just identified. So solution documentation becomes the second stage to the process. And that essentially requires a lot of collaboration, and that's where a majority of our cases tend to stay for a bit, because these issues are those that we don't have an immediate resolution to. So they stay in the solution documentation stage for a long time. And that's where the communication part helps us to find out a final resolution. Once a solution has been documented and proposed, we will take it to the solution review process. And that solution review process would be assigning tasks to owners who have the ability and the expertise to know if the solution could or could not work, potentially. And so that solution review followed by implementation. If we have a solution that's been proposed and finalized, we want to implement that solution, we want to conduct the maintenance on our turbines and retrofits, whatever is necessary to correct that problem. That's implementation, followed finally by a second level of review, where we are reviewing the implementation of what we just conducted. So that could be something like a before and after analysis to see if how the problem was before and after we proposed a solution, we had a test pilot, whatever project, how it actually works out right now. If that works, good enough, close the case. If it doesn't, let's move back to the solution and try to find out a better solution. Or maybe the solution was fine, the implementation was not done correctly, so let's go back to the implementation stage. So that's essentially our parent process model. Real simplistic, just 5 stages. And the second thing that you'll notice here is that all the tasks, and typical to a process map, are actually mapped to different, from sites to reliability engineers to performance management. There is a constant chain of custody that's been created for each task that we have in the system. So basically, if we're in the document solution stage, we have something that we call the solution owner or the case owner, who has the responsibility to manage and to come up and finalize a solution to the problem. If it's in a review stage, there are reviewers. If it's an implementation, then there's an implementation owner who's going to be responsible. Maybe it's a site manager who is responsible for the entire wind farm. He will take care of the responsibility of implementing that solution that we just proposed. And that's what you see here in the screenshots here of typical task level reports that we have in Appian. However, we did also realize that when we have one person assigned to each issue who's going to manage a solution to the problem, that's asking a lot from one person, because these are issues that we don't have an immediate resolution to. If we knew exactly who's going to find a solution, then we probably don't need a BPM suite, right? So I think the next level, taking you to the next level, would be the ad hoc subtask functionality that we have. So when we assign a solution owner to a case, for example, it's a technical case, it's an engineer who's responsible to find the solution to the problem, he or she is now able to create subtasks on the go. So he or she will go ahead and assign subtasks to a problem and be like, hey, you guys work on this problem, you guys work on this problem, and then we'll come back and put these things together and find one eventual solution to this problem. And that's what you see in the screenshot here. So a typical technical case that we'd have, for example, a generator is not functioning properly, it has failures constantly. An example of subtasks would be one subtask that we send out to a site lead technician, say, hey, you guys need to conduct regular inspections and see how this component's working out, and just figure out, do QA/QC inspections and do quality control and see why this problem occurs, when it occurs, keep track of the problem. The second subtask could be something that the asset managers have. They need to write a letter to a manufacturer saying that, hey, we have this problem. Maybe it's something that should have been you're contractually obligated to meet, so we write a letter and we do conflict resolution essentially. So that's been worked on in parallel. And third thing would be something like performance analysis. My team that we work on is analysis, kind of trend the faults and see how the problem has been in the past. So you could work in parallel finding a solution, and then the manager, the solution owner, comes together and puts everything together and proposes a final solution. So that's where the coordination comes in the picture, and essentially collaboration. The next thing that we have lined up is prioritization. So when we have so many different tasks, we have about like 360, I think, cases in our system right now. So there's a lot of different technical issues that people have to handle. And with such a small team, we need to know what exactly to work on first. And I think that's essential to know, because everybody who logs the case in the system would think that their issue is the most important to work on, because they're logging the case, they feel for it. However, from a corporate standpoint, from a company standpoint, we need to know, the engineers need to know which cases to work on first. And that's where our prioritization scheme, and that's where our risk priority matrix, as we like to call it, comes into play.